Be happy, be healthy, be your best. Be your best.
So let's talk about a subject that
Be happy.
may be kind of controversial for some, but I just enjoy this subject because what I've seen is that over a period of time, when I educate people about different foods and different things that are aggravating their gut and causing them to have different symptoms and different interruptions in their life, as far as just gas or bloating or their sleep's not good or they don't have the energy that they want. A lot of times when we can trace it back to some of the things that they're eating, it can make a huge difference in their life. So let's just talk about some of the things that you may want to cut back on or avoid on a daily basis. You might want to start today. I've got 6 of them we're going to talk about. There's a lot more, but these are kind of, for me, the 6 big bad boys. So one of them is gluten. Okay. Now, some people don't feel like they have any problem with gluten at all, but other people do. Other people have it where they get bloating, they get gas, they have it where they can actually have some pain. They just notice that they don't feel as good the next day. A lot of things can be associated with gluten. There's a whole science to what gluten does in the body. And then there's the science behind that gluten in America is kind of a different animal than other countries, stickier. Just a lot of hybrid work has been done with it over the decades. There are some flours that are still in their original form, like einkorn, that a lot of people will use. But for the most part, the gluten in this country just has more of an impact on the gut. And people can see that when they travel to some place like Europe and they're able to eat the bread, they're able to eat the pasta. It doesn't have the same effect on them at all. So gluten is one of the things that when we test people in our office, whether it's in person or they have sent us hair, saliva, and urine samples to run through our lab unit, that we start to see it show up under food sensitivities on their report. And then we know that that gluten is causing a compromised situation in the gut that then can affect a lot of other things. And so we try to help people realize that that is something that when it shows up on a report of theirs, that they are going to want to cut back or eliminate totally because it is compromising the gut and it can cause a lot of different side effects. And it can make life a little bit difficult at first, but I got to tell you, in the last decade or so, they definitely have come out with a lot more things that do not have gluten in them that make it easier to do a gluten-free diet. But here at the same time, you have to be kind of careful because some of the things that say gluten-free, they actually have done a conglomeration of a lot of different starches to make something that resembles bread or whatever that isn't particularly healthy for the body either. So some people are able to switch to sourdough. Here again, there's a caution. Some sourdough breads just have a few ingredients, and a lot of people find that their gut tolerates that well. And then there are other sourdough breads where actually the sourdough is just an extract that's added kind of at the bottom of the ingredient list. It gives it a little sourdough taste, but it's not truly sourdough, which puts it where it's just right in the classification of a full gluten regular bread. So part of it is learning how to read labels. Reading labels when you're in the store, it can be just a huge benefit as far as starting to see how much they put in things that just aren't good for you to eat. So what's the second one? Well, dairy. Okay. A lot of people cannot do dairy. A lot of them have a lactose intolerance. Sometimes people can do it where they look for like an A2 milk that's a different type of cow, different type of milk, and they aren't bothered by that. Some people are able to do fermented dairy, so they have no problem with cottage cheese, full fat yogurt, kefir, things of a fermented nature. But then some people just have to cut the dairy out of their diet completely and then use some of the substitutes for dairy in order to not have the inflammation and the different problems in the gut that dairy can bring. So that's another one that we look for on people's reports to see if we need to steer them in the direction of cutting back or eliminating dairy if it actually is causing a problem with the gut. Sugar. Sugar is in almost everything in America. It is amazing. When you start reading labels, if you look at something, you're going to find that a lot of times it's one of the first 5 ingredients in a lot of the things that are in the store. So, cutting back on sugar is something that can have a massively good benefit on the body. Okay. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time to get used to not eating things that are sweet. But if you do it for a while and you cut back or cut out all of those sugar components, you actually start finding that when you do eat something like a green apple or berries or something of a food nature, that they actually taste sweeter than they used to because you are not taking into your system tons of the white sugar, the brown sugar, the different things that make it where you start to have it where the body just wants to have something sweet all the time. And there's the whole other science to it as far as the insulin response and just how the pancreas is reacting to what you're eating, how the insulin is being affected, the glucose levels in the blood, the fructose levels in the blood, the elevated cortisol. There's a whole science behind how sugar actually affects the body. But for here in just a few minutes, one of the best things to say is just see how much sugar you're actually eating and consciously think about cutting it way back. Okay. You will see an immediate benefit to your health if you do so. The other one is the GMO factor. And there's a lot of controversy surrounding GMO, the modification of crops and different things. A lot of the reports will say, oh, the body doesn't know the difference between GMO and non GMO. There's really no harm to it, whatever. There are studies that have shown that GMO does not have positive effects in animals when it's been tested. And there are countries that have taken around the world the stance of banning having GMO crops grown or only allow a limited amount into the country in order to have it be as animal feed or other situations like that. So you might want to do some research. My own personal opinion is I stay away from GMO. Sometimes what hasn't been investigated is the thing that in the future ends up showing up as a problem. So a lot of what has gone into making genetically modified items are now a lot of them bioengineered. And in the long term, you may look back and say, wow, that really was not a good thing to have done. So do your own research and you may decide on your own that you just want to avoid GMO products. Another one is soybean. Soy is in so many products, and the majority of soybeans in this country are genetically modified. And a lot of times, things from soy are used as fillers in different products. So you're going to want to take a look at labels again and see, is there soybean powder? Is there any kind of soybean oil? What is in the products that is coming from soybeans because it is a cheap ingredient that can be used from a profit margin standpoint. So look for soy in things as well. Seed oils. I have a whole other podcast thing on seed oils. Seed oils are rapidly becoming recognized as just plain poison. The history of seed oils, how they ended up coming into the Heart Association recommended as good for health, that's a whole nother story. Let's just put it this way. It doesn't have very good beginnings, and the health effects that have been seen over the years from seed oils are proof that, no, they aren't good for the health. So you're going to see sunflower oil, Puritan oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, safflower oil, Crisco. All of those are just not good for the body, period. What is good for the body? Butter, ghee, avocado oil, coconut oil, those type of things. The body knows what to do with them, and they actually are healthy for the body. High fructose corn syrup is another poison. That is something that is in so many things and is just rapidly becoming recognized as one of the horrible additives to foods that can cause so many problems in the body. And people that are concerned about things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, whatever, start to realize that they need to avoid high fructose corn syrup. They need to avoid sugar they need to avoid GMO foods. They need to avoid things that predispose them towards having those problems develop, especially if there's a family history. So in our office, we scan the gut. You can see here, digestive. We scan the pancreas. We scan the stomach. We do the small intestine. We do the large intestine. And a lot of times, what shows up, and this is a screenshot from one of the tests, is that soy, canola oil, corn as far as grains, sugar, milk, safflower oil, wheat, cow's milk, soybean oil, and gluten in particular, these were all affecting the body. And the numbers in the parentheses afterwards were the number of areas in the body that were being negatively impacted by it. And we're able to see in our report which of those body parts are being affected by these things and are able to make recommendations as far as having people cut back or eliminate things based on what shows up in their report. So you might want to seriously look at your diet. Think about those 6 things. Think about the sugar. Think about the dairy. Think about the gluten. Think about the soy. Think about the corn. Think about the seed oils. If you can start really looking at your diet and start managing those items that are associated with so many negative health situations, you'll actually find that over a short period of time, you start noticing the difference in your sleep, your energy, your weight, just in your general feeling of well being.